Vendenhog's responses to this objection based on deterrence come in a couple of different forms. On the one hand, he seems to just flatly deny that deterrence doesn't work. He says that because of the finality of the death penalty, he still believes that the death penalty deters some crimes from being committed. For instance, it still deters at least some murderers from going through with the act of murder. Um, is he just being dogmatic and denying the statistical evidence? Maybe, but maybe he has something like this in mind as well. And let me present an analogy to try to make this point. I think that the death penalty and deterrence is kind of like lighthouses. A lighthouse, is at the edge of the shore. It shines a light out to the ocean. The main purpose of a lighthouse is to prevent boats or ships from crashing into the coastline. Now, when a lighthouse is a good lighthouse, when a lighthouse is achieving its intended purposes, what happens? Nothing, right? If a lighthouse is doing a good job, then no boats are crashing. There's nothing to measure to be able to say, oh, yeah, that lighthouse is deterring boats from crashing into the shore, because no boats are crashing into the shore. Similarly, if the death penalty is actually deterring some murders, how would you measure that? The murders aren't occurring, so there's nothing to measure. So Vendenhog believes that because of the finality, at least some crimes are prevented or deterred, and there's not going to be a genuine way to show that in the statistical evidence. Moreover, Vendenhog seems to indicate that he believes that the lives of innocent members of society, law-abiding members of society, have more value than the lives of guilty criminals. Maybe that's an idea that Stephen Nathanson would object to, but if we take that idea, if we assume that idea for a moment, that he's right, that guilty criminals have less value than, law-abiding members of society, then I think he's making another kind of argument. Sometimes this argument is referred to as the best bet argument. And he might say something like this: okay, let's agree that it is unclear whether the death penalty actually deters crimes, if deterrence actually exists. Let's say that's unclear. We still either have to retain the death penalty or abolish it. So which way should we go? Which way would be the better bet, the best bet? If we had to, put a bet down, it's a gamble, right? We don't know if deterrence works or not. So which way should we go, retention or abolition? And he asks us, what would be the worst outcome of abolition? Well, the worst outcome would be that we abolish the death penalty, and the death penalty would have deterred some murders from occurring. So the negative outcome then would be that those murders actually do end up occurring because we've abolished the death penalty. So the worst possible outcome of abolishing the death penalty is that some innocent members of society are murdered by criminals because those criminals were not deterred by the punishment. Since the death penalty as the punishment has been abolished, they felt more comfortable committing their crime, and the result was that an innocent person lost their life. That's the worst outcome of abolition. What's the worst outcome of retention? According to Vendenhog, the worst outcome is that we put guilty criminals to death. And now his question to you is, do you value the lives of guilty criminals more than the lives of innocent members of society? Presumably not. And so the best bet, based on that premise, is that you should retain the death penalty, because if deterrence does work, at least sometimes, even if there's only one murder per year that's deterred, that's one innocent life that is saved. And isn't that one innocent life more valuable than the lives of the guilty criminals that are put to death? Vendenhog believes so, and therefore he thinks that we should bet on the death penalty as a deterrent, even if the evidence may be uncertain.